As is our tradition, please join a toast to the President of the United States.
The relationship between the president and the White House press corps is often combative.
Not you, not you. Your organization's terrible. I'm not going to give you a question. You are fake news.
Yet, presidential speeches often produce historic moments.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Read my lips. Today, we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
But there is one time of the year the mood lightens, when the president and reporters actually get along just for a few hours at the White House Correspondents Dinner.
I'm really excited to be here tonight with the only group of Americans with a lower approval rating than I have.
For former CBS White House correspondents Randall Pinkston and Deborah Potter, the dinner offers a chance for a little camaraderie.
You can also appreciate the grace that a president has to sit there and get some gentle and sometimes not so gentle ribbing.
Some people call it the nerd prom, become more of a sort of generalized DC black tie party.
Deborah Potter spent 16 years as a national correspondent for CBS and CNN. She says away from the dinner, there is often a contentious relationship between the journalists who cover the White House and the people within the administration.
It's a once-a-year event at which people are allowed to have a little bit of fun. That is, the journalists poke fun at themselves, the people in the administration that they cover. It works both ways.
Ladies and gentlemen, surprisingly, I've enjoyed these dinners.
One purpose of the White House Correspondents' Dinner is for journalists to invite a good source as a kind of thank you, but Potter admits there is a clear line of distinction.
And I think that is one of the tricky lines that all journalists have to walk. Just because you cover someone doesn't mean you're going to be friends. It doesn't mean that then you're going to soft pedal things if they are involved in some problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President.
The first dinner was held in 1924 with Calvin Coolidge. George Condon, who has covered 10 presidents, is writing a book on the history of the White House Correspondents Association. Condon says Coolidge gave such a boring speech. It set the tone for future dinners to have comedians and musical acts as the presidents wanted to have fun.
It happened by accident, but it ended up being a tremendous lure for other presidents because they didn't want to give a speech.
Franklin Roosevelt, famous for his radio fireside chats, delivered his first White House Correspondents' Address in March of 1941. It was more of a speech with subtle humor than the comedic roast we are used to today. FDR said this dinner differed from his weekly press conferences.
For you cannot ask me any questions tonight.
John F. Kennedy was considered by many our first television president. His charisma and humor made him a natural at events like this. At the 1962 dinner, Kennedy poked fun at the press for having tough assignments, like covering his activities while on vacation.
When correspondents are required to leave their families for long and lonely weekends at Palm Beach.
From its inception until the early 1960s, the association was all male. That changed under President Kennedy and a trailblazing female correspondent, according to former CBS White House correspondent Peter Mayer.
Helen Thomas of United Press International very wisely and bravely lobbied President John F. Kennedy. He threatened to boycott the dinner because of the exclusion of women.
A past president of the White House Correspondents Association, George Condon, reports for the National Journal and compares the dinner appearances of Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson.
Kennedy came in and changed it. For the first time, a president gave a funny speech, basically threw out what had been written for him. It was short. It was very funny and self-deprecating. And he set the standard there. So LBJ thought he had to match it. And LBJ just absolutely hated the dinner.
As you know, the relationship between presidents and the press has always been a very intriguing one, kind of a sort of a lover's quarrel.
Media historians often note the ease of certain presidents in front of a microphone, such as Kennedy, Reagan, Clinton, and Obama. LBJ was not one of them.
As some of you may have heard, I've had my troubles with the press.
By the early 1980s, historians said the entertainment value at the dinners was so bad, the organization switched to having just one comedian as host. But noted President Reagan also put on a good show.
It must be exciting, though, being a correspondent in a place where all the political action is. I understand ABC's having some budget problems.
The news division has already laid off 3 hairstylists.
The dinner is a time for journalists to be the butt of jokes, and they often deserved it, according to Deborah Potter, who covered Reagan for CBS. But Potter admits presidents were funny too.
I will say that many of them appear to enjoy this evening, presidents, and they generally enjoy the mockery that is made of them.
If there was a competition for reporters to invite noteworthy guests, George Condon says Bill Clinton took it up a notch.
Bill Clinton gave celebrities permission to attend the dinner. Bill Clinton loved Hollywood, and they loved Bill Clinton. And so you did see a ramping up.
During some of his appearances at the Correspondents' Dinner, President Clinton spent more time poking fun at himself than the media.
Now, many of you have been writing about my so-called stealth campaign for re-election.
But on occasion, Clinton could not resist turning the tables.
By the way, I want to congratulate the Times on that Al Gore wants to be president scoop.
I also view this as a good chance to put aside our differences for a few hours.
Succeeding Clinton, President George W. Bush noted the now eclectic nature of the audience.
Pamela Anderson and Mitt Romney in the same room. Isn't that one of the signs of the apocalypse?
President Barack Obama had many memorable moments at the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
After the midterm elections, my advisors asked me, Mr. President, do you have a bucket list? And I said, well, I have something that rhymes with bucket list. Take executive action on immigration? Bucket.
Obama had fun, even roasting a future president who was in attendance.
And Donald Trump is here. Still.
Donald Trump attended several of the dinners, but never as commander-in-chief. George Condon, who has covered the White House full-time since 1982, said Trump, by not attending as president, wanted to send a message.
He knew he was going to be booed. He knew how tough an audience it is. He doesn't do self-deprecation very well. It doesn't come easily to him. And that's the humor that worked at these dinners.
The White House Correspondents' Dinner gained a wider audience via radio and television, according to Dr. Kevin Williams, who teaches media and society at Mississippi State University and is an expert on popular culture.
With C-SPAN starting to broadcast and trying to find an audience for it, I think that's a really kind of crucial thing to remember, is that there is an audience for this that goes just beyond who's sitting in that room.
Impersonating the president in recent years helped widen the audience, with comedians standing at the podium at the White House Correspondents' Dinner with Presidents George W. Bush and later Barack Obama.
So I want to talk about some serious issues such as... Okay, here it comes. Nuclear proliferation. Nuclear proliferation.
I'm a mellow sort of guy. And that's why I invited Luther, my anger translator, to join me here tonight. In our fast-changing world, traditions like the White House Correspondents' Dinner are important.
I mean, really? What is this dinner? And why am I required to come to it?
In the end, with all jokes aside, Presidents Reagan, Biden, and Obama all recognized what Mayer and Portnoy are referring: the power of reporting, from investigative journalism to giving a voice to the voiceless.
I'm especially grateful for all your efforts to provide a vigorous, probing, and unbiased free press.
Where the truth is buried by lies and the lies live on as truth. What's clear, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, that you, the free press, matter more than you ever did in the last century.
At home and abroad, journalists, like all of you, engage in the dogged pursuit of informing citizens and holding leaders accountable and making our government of the people possible. It's as important to America's trajectory, to our values, our ideals, than anything that we could do in elected office.
While comedic political laughs get coverage, the White House Correspondents' Dinner is more than a roast. The association supports reporters working to cover the president, promotes scholarships to help the next generation of journalists, and educates the public about the First Amendment and a free press. For WMSV, I'm Terry Likes.